As a kind and gentle man lay dying in his hospital bed, his beloved dog was brought in for a final goodbye. What unfolded next was so deeply moving, it would break even the toughest heart and leave tears in your eyes. Ryan Jessen was an everyday man living a simple, quiet life in California. He worked as a landscaper, a job he genuinely enjoyed. It wasn't just about planting flowers or shaping hedges. He loved the freedom, the creativity, and the satisfaction of building something beautiful from the ground up. Through his work, he crossed paths with many people, formed casual connections, and even built a few meaningful friendships along the way. One day, while he was on his way back from work, Ryan cut through a cemetery. It cut 15 minutes off his walk, so it made absolute sense for him to take that shortcut. However, as he walked along the path through the middle of all the graves, he noticed something up ahead of him. It was some kind of animal. Ryan continued on his way, and as he got closer, he noticed it was a puppy. The tiny dog looked scared and hungry, and it was clear that it had not been cared for in quite some time. Fashioning a leash out of his belt, Ryan decided to walk the dog back to his home. It might have been dirty, smelly, and covered in fleas, but the little puppy deserved love. It was clear that it had been abandoned, and Ryan saw it as his duty to help the poor animal out. The little dog was a boxer, and Ryan decided to name it Molly. He cleaned her up, got rid of her fleas, made sure she was fed and watered, and he set about trying to find her owners. The only thing was that no one had reported a puppy missing. No matter how hard Ryan looked, he couldn't find Molly's owners. It was as if she had just appeared, or sprung up out of the ground, or something. And so, being the kind-hearted guy that he was, Ryan decided that he would keep Molly for himself and give the beautiful little animal the life she truly deserved. It was the least he could do, as he would have hated to see her go to a shelter or some other cold institution. Over the next 6 years, Ryan and Molly formed as close a bond as any man and his dog ever had. The two of them seemed to be best friends, and they were barely ever separated. Molly would even sometimes accompany Ryan to work and sit happily watching him landscaping all day long. One of their favorite things to do was to go for long walks through the nearby forest. It was calm and quiet, and Ryan could just enjoy the silence and be at one with nature as Molly happily zoomed around chasing sticks, barking at birds, and stretching her legs. They would eventually find a patch of grass to sit down on, or maybe a log, and relax and enjoy the small picnic that Ryan had packed for them. Despite only being around half an hour's drive from their home, this kind of little break felt like they were a million miles away from the hustle and bustle of the ordinary everyday world. Ryan and Molly loved it, and they truly valued their time together. But one day, Ryan woke up with a headache. It was a very bad headache, and it felt like his head was splitting open. He had never suffered from migraines or anything like that before, so he assumed that he had suddenly gotten one of those for some reason. But over the course of the next few hours, the pain didn't ease. In fact, it got much, much worse. He ended up nearly collapsing and taking himself to the hospital to be checked out. This was surely not something normal. Ryan was right to be concerned. The doctors carried out several tests and checks and discovered that he was suffering from a ventricular brain hemorrhage. This is a severe and life-threatening condition where there is bleeding inside or around the ventricles in the brain. This kind of intracranial bleeding can put pressure on the all-important nerve cells and cause irreversible damage to them, resulting in brain injury or even death. The condition needs to be treated properly and decisively in order to fix it and maintain any hope of the person surviving and living a normal life. In many cases, it happens randomly and seems almost cruel and unfair. Unfortunately, despite the doctor's best efforts, Ryan fell into a coma, where he remained for quite some time. This is both a bad thing and a good thing. Ideally, a person should not be in a coma at all, but on the other hand, it gives medical professionals a small opportunity to still treat them and the underlying cause while the body rests. That's why doctors and surgeons endeavored to fix the bleeding and reverse any damage that Ryan might have suffered. They speculated that the sudden medical disaster may have been caused by Ryan's blood pressure. That, combined with the fact that he loved his energy drinks, could have been a recipe for disaster. Yet even though doctors tried everything they could think of to help Ryan recover, there was still no change in his situation. Now Ryan's family was faced with a heartbreaking decision about whether to turn the life support systems off and let him die peacefully. It was the most difficult and soul-destroying of decisions to make. On one hand, Ryan might get better eventually if doctors were able to figure something out. But on the other hand, his brain would probably be far too damaged for him to have any quality of life. They weighed up the pros and cons for each decision and ultimately decided it would be for the best for Ryan's life support to be withdrawn. The family prepared to say their goodbyes, though they knew that the moment wouldn't be complete without a certain someone who meant the world to Ryan, Molly. It was clear that Molly had missed Ryan while he had been in the hospital, so it only seemed right that she too should have the opportunity to see him one last time. Luckily, the hospital staff agreed to the family's request. Usually, dogs are not allowed inside hospitals, but they understood the importance of Molly to Ryan and vice versa. So the dog was brought to the hospital, where she found Ryan's mother, father, and sister waiting. They then sadly entered Ryan's room to say their final goodbyes before the life support system was turned off. Molly's first reaction would usually be to run up and jump on Ryan, greeting him, licking him, and sniffing him. But that day, she seemed quite reserved, even a little shy and timid. This was not like Molly at all, as she was usually a very outgoing dog. But it seemed as if she understood the gravity of the situation and could tell how sad and upset everyone was. She sniffed around Ryan and tucked her tail between her legs. Ryan's mother lifted her up and gently placed her on the bed next to him. Molly made herself comfortable, all the while softly sniffing at her owner's face. She still seemed timid and worried, but it was clear she knew who Ryan was, despite him having all kinds of tubes and wires coming out of him. Molly softly licked his face and let out a soft whine, looking at Ryan's family. It was as if she was pleading with them to help her beloved owner. There was nothing anyone could do, and in that heartbreaking silence, it was as if Molly understood. Accepting the moment with quiet sorrow, Ryan's sister gently lifted his hand and placed it on Molly's back, as if to offer her one final gesture of comfort. The scene was both beautiful and devastating. The bond between them was undeniable, and witnessing Molly's grief made it impossible for anyone in the room to hold back tears. Ryan's family made a heartfelt promise to her that day. They would take care of her from now on. And though Molly would go on to live a full and happy life, a part of her would always long for Ryan, loving and missing him in ways words could never fully capture. What do you think of this story? Let us know in the comments section. I hope you like this story. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, press the bell icon to never miss the updates from our channel. Thank you.